Professor Pogorel. Well, once again, welcome to Bangkok, and thank you for having.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. First of all, you probably heard about the recently Spectrum auction for 3G in 2.1 gigahertz, and the stories after that, of course. But I want to touch more about that today. But from your own experiences, can you please share with us about what other countries do about their Spectrum auction?
Yes. Actually, the lesson from what we have learned from the international experience recently is that, you know, introducing competition and dynamism in the wireless market is not as simple as we thought a few years ago. A few years ago, you know, there was this notion that opening the market, organizing auctions for radio spectrum was the way to a beautiful future where competition would reign in favor of customers and subscribers. The problem is that what we have seen from the recent evolutions in markets which were at the forefront of this evolution, like the US or the UK or other countries, is that this opening of the market of telecommunications, the granting of licenses through auctions, has led to situations which are not as satisfactory, as good in terms of competition, in terms of innovation than we thought. For instance, if we look at what's happening in the US, and please stop me if you want to if I'm not clear enough. In the US at the moment, we have a dominant duopoly of Verizon, AT&T, and the FCC is concerned about this situation. And in late September, the FCC opened an inquiry on whether this situation is good in terms of competition and innovation. And although this is the result of a very well organized, very open auctions, but in the end, what comes out of these auctions might not be as good as what we thought. And what some countries have done to confront this kind of situation, which is not just in the US, but it has appeared in Canada, it has appeared in European countries as well, that some governments have weighed the kind of some governments, some regulators have weighed the kind of leverage they have on the market in terms of innovation, in terms of decreasing rates for customers, as against the necessity of creating new rules to introduce new operators. And for instance, countries like Canada, like Sweden, have made special provisions in their auctions for one frequency band or a set of frequency bands to be assigned to a new entrant. And in the case of France, to take an example in my home country, at some point the regulator was not happy with the three existing wireless operators, and it granted a license for a fee. It granted a license to a fourth operator, and it was in January 2012, so it's fairly recent. And this fourth operator has been fairly successful. It has gained 5% market share in 1 year, which is very good.
Right. So let's say the Spectrum auction, even in US, Canada, or even in France, they all meet international standard. But also they face some kind of challenges as well, just same as in Thailand.
Yes.
So, and also I heard about one interesting sentence that you mentioned in the conference room about the pricing of the Spectrum auction should not be the prime focus, or it's not the most important factor. Can you please elaborate more about what are those important factors in big picture that we should consider?
Yes, thank you for this question. I think there's too much focus on pricing and on the money the government gets from spectrum auctions. I would say, of course, I wouldn't be in the seat of the ministers of finance. They have a very difficult job, and the government running the government budget is a difficult task. But the radio spectrum is a resource which is used by many users, private users, public users, telephone companies, broadcasting companies, public services, public safety, defense, fire departments, etc., radio astronomers.
Right.
And the government and the regulator has to take into account the necessities of all those services, and making as much money as possible from the spectrum is not the primary focus of this general policy. If the government can make some money, if this is in line with the interests of consumers in the end, it's good. But making as much money as possible, I think it's really not the priority. If in many countries, people when they look at the results of auctions, they said, "Oh, we are disappointed because the amount was not as much as we thought." I'm not really comfortable with this, because if the price is not, astronomically high, if it's in line with international standards, it's okay. And it's good for consumers, it's good for companies, because companies need money to invest in their networks. So this is, getting as much money as possible from auctions. I think it's not the primary objective of the government. The primary objective of the government is providing the radio spectrum resources for all of those who need it in the interest of the economy and society.
Well, I got the reason the pricing is not the main focus here, because there are a lot of benefits, for Thailand or other countries as well to use the spectrum. And you just mentioned the use for public, and also for the commercial sector. Can you elaborate more about how to balance the allocation of the spectrum for both use?
Yes. So I have no personal direct knowledge of the situation in Thailand, but what's very important is that the criteria which apply to the management of public spectrum and private spectrum are very different. In the case of commercial spectrum, you can look at the costs, the various costs, networks, etc., and the cost of spectrum, and the benefits. You have costs and benefits. We are in a regular business environment. So it's possible to balance the two. In the case of the public sector, some people say you can measure the benefits of fire departments or the benefits of defense. I don't believe in this. So I think there's a certain level of quality, of adequacy, which has to be reached by public services, and so the public services have to be, effective technically. They have to use their resources, budgetary resources, spectrum resources, effectively. But this is I would say the criteria are mostly technical.
Right.
Is the fire department, in a good position to use its spectrum? Does it have the right equipment? Is it efficient? This is, a very technical viewpoint. In commercial areas, and I would say commercial areas, of course, you have wireless telephony. I think commercial broadcasting is in the same category. The criteria are more business-like. It's you have to balance costs and benefits. You have to make a profit. So it's different, and we should not mix the two, and especially we should not we should not make money out of spectrum which is needed by the public sector.
Right. So it's not all about money making, but it's about the way of life of people, and about the social responsibility as well, and that's the most important factor that we should focus here.